Get this ghetto trash out of my emergency room before she infects the real patients. Nurse Patricia Walsh didn't just speak, she acted. Her latex-gloved hand shoved Maya Johnson's shoulder, pushing the bleeding woman backward off the plastic chair. Maya's designer purse hit the floor. Patricia's foot deliberately crushed the scattered contents, grinding car keys and a black credit card into the polished linoleum. Blood dripped from Maya's forehead onto her simple jeans. She steadied herself against the wall, saying nothing. Her dark eyes remained calm, despite the humiliation. 12 patients stared. 3 phones started recording. A child whispered, "Mommy, why is that nurse being mean?" Patricia smirked. Some people need to learn their place. Have you ever been judged so harshly that strangers assumed you didn't deserve basic human dignity? The waiting room clock ticked to 11:52 p.m. Maya pulled herself back onto the chair, her movements deliberate and controlled. She dabbed the cut on her forehead with tissues from her pocket, while Patricia watched with obvious satisfaction. "Insurance card," Patricia demanded for the 4th time tonight, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "And don't hand me some fake Medicaid nonsense." Maya calmly produced her Blue Cross Blue Shield premium card. Patricia snatched it, held it up to the light like checking for counterfeit bills, then tossed it back. Probably stolen. At the registration desk, Patricia's voice carried across the room. "We have a problem patient in Section B, claims she has real insurance." Air quotes accompanied the words. Other staff members glanced over, and Maya felt their assumptions crystallizing. Jennifer Martinez, a young mother waiting with her feverish toddler, had seen enough. She opened Facebook Live on her phone. "Y'all need to see this racist BS happening at St. Margaret's Hospital right now," she whispered into the camera. "They're treating this black woman like garbage." The viewer count climbed. 47, 73, 156 people watching. Patricia returned to Maya's section, clipboard in hand. When did this alleged accident happen? The word alleged dripped with skepticism. "Around 10:30, Maya replied evenly. "I was rear-ended at Michigan and Roosevelt." "Uh-huh. And you just happened to be in that neighborhood?" Patricia's eyebrow arched meaningfully. Michigan and Roosevelt wasn't exactly the upscale area someone with Maya's calm demeanor would typically frequent at night. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from James. "Surgery running late. Traffic cleared downtown. 10 minutes out. Stay strong, love." She checked the time. 11:57 p.m. 10 minutes until midnight. Meanwhile, Jennifer's live stream was gaining momentum. Comments flooded in. "This is disgusting. Call the news. What hospital is this again? Someone tag the mayor." 312 viewers now. Then 486. The local hashtag #, St. Margaret's Shame began appearing in the comments. Patricia noticed people filming and strutted over to Jennifer. "Ma'am, you need to put that phone away. This is a medical facility." "It's a public space," Jennifer replied firmly, keeping the camera rolling. "And I'm documenting discrimination." "Discrimination?" Patricia laughed, the sound sharp and performative. "We treat everyone equally here. Some people just expect special treatment because they think they're entitled to it." She turned back to Maya, her voice rising. "Speaking of which, miss," she glanced at the clipboard mockingly, "Johnson, if that's even your real name, we're going to need a legitimate emergency contact, someone who can actually afford to pay your bills." From her scattered purse contents, Maya quietly retrieved what had fallen. Her movements were precise, almost meditative. Among the items, observant viewers of Jennifer's stream caught glimpses of things that didn't match Patricia's assumptions. A first-class United boarding pass dated 3 days ago, an American Express Centurion card, the exclusive black card with no preset spending limit, and a Hermes keychain that probably cost more than Patricia's monthly salary. But Patricia saw none of this, or chose not to. In her mind, expensive items carried by a black woman in simple clothes could only be fake, stolen, or borrowed. "Ma'am," Maya said quietly, "I've been waiting here for over 2 hours with a head injury." "Could someone please help me?" Patricia interrupted, hands on her hips. "Give you the VIP treatment?" "Let me explain something to you, sweetheart. This isn't the Ritz-Carlton. We serve patients based on medical need, not on how much noise they make." The irony wasn't lost on Jennifer's viewers, now numbering 847. Patricia was making all the noise. A security guard approached Marcus Williams, a soft-spoken African-American man in his 50s who looked deeply uncomfortable with the situation unfolding. He'd worked at St. Margaret's for 8 years and had never seen Patricia this openly hostile. "Ma'am," Marcus said gently to Maya, is there someone you can call to pick you up? Maybe you'd be more comfortable at a different facility?" Maya looked up at him with such grace that Marcus immediately regretted the suggestion. "I was brought here by paramedics," she explained calmly, "after a car accident. I was told I needed medical attention for a possible concussion." Patricia snorted. "Possible concussion? You seem pretty alert to me. Alert enough to cause a disturbance." Jennifer's stream hit 1,200 viewers. Comments were getting angrier. "Fire that nurse." This is 2025, not 1955. Someone call Channel 7. "What's that nurse's name?" At 12:01 a.m., the situation escalated. Charge nurse Susan Bradley emerged from the back office, drawn by the commotion. She was Patricia's supervisor and, unfortunately, cut from similar cloth. "What's the situation here?" Susan asked, but her tone suggested she'd already decided who was the problem. "Disruptive patient," Patricia reported crisply. "Demanding immediate attention, claiming discrimination when she doesn't get her way. I've asked her to leave multiple times." Susan looked Maya up and down the simple clothes, the calm demeanor that she misread as defiance, the small crowd of phones now pointed in their direction. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises. You're creating a disturbance for patients who have legitimate medical emergencies." The words hit like physical blows. Legitimate medical emergencies. As if Maya's bleeding head wound was somehow illegitimate. Maya's phone buzzed again. "Parking now?" "Coming up. Almost there." She looked at the time, 12:03 a.m. "Oh, you have 2 minutes to gather your things and exit voluntarily," Susan announced. "Or we'll call the police for trespassing." Jennifer's live stream exploded. 2,100 viewers shared 127 times in the past 10 minutes. The hospital's Google reviews were plummeting in real time as angry viewers left 1-star ratings with detailed accounts of what they were witnessing. Maya stood slowly, her movement causing a fresh trickle of blood from her forehead. She gathered her belongings with the same quiet dignity she'd maintained all evening. The crushed items from her purse, the boarding pass, the Centurion card, the Hermes keychain, went back into the bag without ceremony. As she reached for her phone to check James's latest text, Patricia made one final fatal mistake. "And next time," the nurse called out loudly, ensuring maximum humiliation, "try the free clinic on State Street. That's more your speed." Every phone in the waiting room was recording now. Jennifer's viewers had reached 2,847. The hashtag # St. Margaret's Racism was trending in Chicago. Maya paused at the elevator bank and turned back to face Patricia. For the first time all evening, she smiled, a small, knowing expression that made Marcus the security guard take an involuntary step backward. "You really don't want to do this," Maya said softly. The elevator dinged. The elevator doors opened at 12:04 a.m. But instead of Maya stepping inside, ER manager Dylan Pierce stepped out. He was a thin man in his early 40s with the nervous energy of someone perpetually worried about liability issues. The sight of multiple phones recording in his emergency room made his eye twitch. "What's going on here?" Dylan's voice carried the forced authority of middle management trying to control a situation spiraling beyond his pay grade. Patricia seized the moment. "Mr. Pierce, thank goodness. This woman has been disrupting our entire emergency department. She's refused to leave despite multiple requests. She's encouraging other patients to film us, and she's making wild accusations about our staff." Dylan looked around the waiting room. Jennifer's live stream was still running. 2,847 viewers had become 3,400. Other patients held their phones openly, no longer pretending to be discreet. A teenager near the vending machines was clearly posting to TikTok, and an elderly man was speaking quietly into his phone, describing the scene to someone on the other end. "Ma'am," Dylan addressed Maya with practiced corporate politeness, "I understand you're upset, but you're creating a disruption for other patients who have legitimate medical needs. We're going to need to ask you to leave immediately." There was that word again. Legitimate. Maya's phone showed a new text from James. "Elevator now. Stay exactly where you are. 12:05 a.m. "I have a head injury from a car accident," Maya said calmly, her voice carrying clearly across the suddenly quiet waiting room. "I was brought here by paramedics who said I needed immediate medical attention. I have premium insurance. I've been waiting over 2 hours, and now you're asking me to leave without treatment." Her words were measured, factual, and devastating in their simplicity. Dylan shifted uncomfortably. He could see the phone recording and could imagine the headlines: "Hospital refuses treatment to injured black woman." But Patricia was a 20-year veteran, and Susan was his charge nurse. Surely they wouldn't act this way without good reason. "Security," Dylan called to Marcus, who was standing nearby looking like he wanted to disappear entirely. "We need to escort this patient out for trespassing." Marcus didn't move. In 8 years of security work, he'd never felt worse about his job. "Sir," Marcus said quietly, "maybe we should just let the doctors take a look? She is bleeding." Patricia whirled on him. "Marcus, your job is security, not medical triage. When management gives you an order, you follow it." The live stream viewers were now sharing frantically. # St. Margaret's racism was trending citywide. Hospital reviews continued to plummet. 4.2 stars to 3.7 to 3.1 in real time. Someone had found the hospital's Twitter account at St. Margaret's ER, and mentions were spiking 500% as the story spread. At Channel 7 News, reporter Monica Carter was getting dressed after receiving a tip from a viewer. The station's social media intern had flagged the trending hashtag, and the live stream link was being shared in their newsroom Slack channel. Back in the ER, Dylan pulled out his phone and called the Chicago Police Department non-emergency line. "We need an officer at St. Margaret's Hospital for a trespassing situation," he said, trying to sound routine. "ETA?" 8 minutes, came the reply. 12:07 a.m. Patricia smiled triumphantly. "You heard that? 8 minutes until you're arrested for trespassing. Still want to stay?" Jennifer's live stream had reached 4,300 viewers. Comments were flowing too fast to read. "Someone calls a lawyer. This is literally criminal. I'm calling the hospital right now. Stay strong, sister. Where are the real doctors?" As if summoned by that last comment, Dr. Rachel Kim emerged from behind the treatment curtains. She was a second-year resident, exhausted from a 14-hour shift, but the commotion had finally penetrated her focus on medical charts. "What's happening out here?" Dr. Kim asked, looking at the phones, the crowd, and Maya's bleeding forehead. "Is this patient being treated?" Patricia jumped in quickly. "Doctor, this woman is being disruptive and refusing to leave. Mr. Pierce has called security." Dr. Kim looked confused. "But she's clearly injured." "Has anyone done a basic assessment? Checked for concussion symptoms?" "That's not your concern," Susan interjected sharply. "This is an administrative matter now." The young doctor's medical training warred with hospital hierarchy. She looked at Maya's head wound, then at the phones recording everything, then at the hostile faces of the nursing staff. I need to check with the attending physician. The attending is in surgery, Patricia said quickly. Has been all night. This was technically true, but incomplete. Dr. Kim didn't know that the attending surgeon was Maya's husband, 12:09 a.m. Maya's forehead was still bleeding. Despite over 2 hours in a medical facility, no one had cleaned the wound, checked for glass fragments, or performed even basic first aid. Jennifer made sure her live stream captured this detail. "Look at her," Jennifer said to her phone camera. "Still bleeding after 2 hours. This is about race, y'all. Nothing else." The viewer count hit 5,200. Dylan was growing desperate. The social media situation was escalating beyond anything he'd ever handled. His phone kept buzzing with notifications. The hospital's Facebook page was being flooded with angry comments, and someone had started calling the main switchboard to complain. "Ma'am," Dylan said to Maya, his voice taking on a threatening edge, "you have exactly 2 minutes to leave voluntarily or you'll be arrested for criminal trespassing." "Is that really what you want?" Maya checked her phone. 12:11 a.m. "I want medical treatment for my injuries," she said simply. "That's what I've wanted since I arrived." "Well, you can't have it here," Patricia snapped, her professionalism finally cracking completely. "Maybe try Cook County General. They're more used to dealing with your type." The waiting room went dead silent. Jennifer's live stream viewer count spiked to 6,800 as people shared the clip of Patricia's barely veiled racism. Dr. Kim stepped forward. "That's completely inappropriate. I'm going to dash. "You're going to return to your patients," Susan cut her off firmly. "This woman is not your responsibility." 12:13 a.m. Police sirens became audible in the distance. Maya stood quietly in the center of an increasingly hostile circle of hospital staff. Patients around the room were divided, some filming supportively, others looking away in discomfort, a few nodding approval at the staff's actions. Her phone buzzed with another text from James. 2 minutes. I can see the crowd from the elevator security camera. Stay strong. For the first time all evening, Maya spoke with something other than calm resignation in her voice. She looked directly at Patricia, then at Susan, then at Dylan. "You really don't want to do this," she repeated. But this time there was something in her tone that made Marcus take another step back. Patricia laughed harshly. "Are you threatening us?" "Security!" But Marcus was staring at Maya with dawning recognition. Something about her posture, her unshakable calm despite the escalating humiliation, the expensive items from her purse, the way she kept checking her phone. "Ma'am," Marcus said slowly, "what did you say your last name was?" "Johnson," Maya replied quietly. Marcus's eyes widened. There was only one Johnson everyone at St. Margaret's knew by reputation. The police sirens were getting closer. Jennifer's live stream had peaked at 8,200 viewers. The hashtag number sign STMARGARETSSHAME was trending nationwide now, picked up by social justice accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers. 12:14 a.m. Dylan was on his phone with hospital administration, frantically explaining the situation to the night supervisor. "Yes, sir. We have it under control." "No, sir. No press calls yet." "Yes, I understand the importance of avoiding negative publicity." Patricia was drunk on the power of the moment, the validation of having authority figures support her judgment. She pointed at Maya dramatically. "You have exactly 60 seconds to walk out that door voluntarily, or you'll be dragged out in handcuffs. Your choice, sweetheart." Maya looked at her phone one final time. 12:15 a.m. Behind her, the elevator dinged. Everyone in the waiting room turned toward the sound. The doors began to slide open. Maya smiled, the same small, knowing expression that had made Marcus nervous earlier, but now he understood why. "Too late," she said softly. The elevator doors opened with mechanical precision at 12:16 a.m. Dr. James Johnson stepped into the waiting room like a force of nature contained in scrubs and a tailored coat. 6'2", broad shoulders, with the quiet confidence that came from 15 years of saving lives in emergency medicine. His hospital badge caught the fluorescent light. James Johnson, M.D., Chief of Emergency Medicine. The effect was instantaneous. Patricia's mouth fell open mid-sentence. Susan's clipboard clattered to the floor. Dylan's phone call ended abruptly as his hand went limp. Even Dr. Kim straightened unconsciously. Everyone knew Dr. Johnson's reputation. For several heartbeats, nobody moved. James said nothing. His eyes swept the scene with clinical precision, his wife standing in the center of a hostile circle, blood still trickling from her forehead, phones recording everything, the tension thick enough to cut with a scalpel. He walked directly to Maya with measured steps. No urgency, no drama, just the purposeful movement of a physician approaching a patient. "Let me see," he said quietly, his voice carrying the natural authority of someone accustomed to life and death decisions. From his coat pocket, James pulled a small medical kit, something he always carried. He gently tilted Maya's chin to examine the wound under the harsh waiting room lights. His touch was professional but tender, checking for glass fragments, assessing depth, evaluating for signs of concussion. The waiting room was tomb silent except for Jennifer's whispered commentary to her live stream. "Oh my God, y'all. I think that's Dr. Johnson. The Dr. Johnson." Her viewer count spiked to 12,400. Patricia found her voice first, though it came out as a strangled whisper. "Dr. Johnson, we didn't know." James continued his examination without acknowledging her. He cleaned Maya's wound with expert precision, applied a butterfly bandage, checked her pupils with a penlight. His movements were careful, methodical, completely focused on his patient. When he finished, he straightened and looked directly at Patricia for the first time. "In 20 years of emergency medicine," James said, his voice calm but carrying absolute authority, "I have never been more ashamed to work in this hospital." The words hit like physical blows. Patricia stammered, "Doctor, she didn't say. She never mentioned." Maya spoke for the first time since James arrived, her voice carrying new strength. "Patricia, meet my husband. Your boss's boss's boss." The revelation rippled through the waiting room like a shockwave. Jennifer's live stream exploded with comments. "Plot twist of the century. That's his wife? Oh snap, she about to own this hospital. Patricia is so fired." But Maya wasn't finished. She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card, holding it up so everyone could see. Maya Johnson, J.D., Johnson and Associates, Civil Rights Law. The second revelation hit even harder than the first. Susan's face went ashen. Dylan Pierce looked like he might vomit. Dr. Kim covered her mouth in shock. Marcus, the security guard, actually smiled for the first time all evening. "Would it have mattered who I was married to?" Maya asked, her voice carrying across the silent waiting room. "Should it have mattered?" The question hung in the air like an indictment. James turned to face the assembled staff, Patricia, Susan, Dylan, and the growing crowd of nurses and orderlies who had emerged from the back areas drawn by the commotion. "This woman," he said, gesturing to Maya, "has been bleeding in your waiting room for over 2 hours. She was brought here by paramedics with a head injury. She has premium insurance. She has been nothing but patient and polite." His voice remained controlled, but everyone could hear the fury underneath. Instead of receiving medical care, she was humiliated, had her belongings scattered on the floor, was called ghetto trash, was accused of theft, was threatened with arrest, and was told to seek treatment at a free clinic. Each accusation landed like a hammer blow. Patricia tried to interrupt. "Dr. Johnson, that's not exactly—" "Are you suggesting the video evidence is inaccurate?" James asked quietly. Patricia's face went white. Video evidence. The live stream, the phones, everything was recorded. Jennifer helpfully called out, "We got it all, Doctor." Every word. Dylan Pierce finally found his voice. "Dr. Johnson, surely there's been a misunderstanding. We can resolve this internally." "Can we?" Maya interjected smoothly. She pulled her phone from her purse and showed the screen to the room. "Because I've been recording audio since I arrived, and I have the live stream footage, and the witness statements from 12 patients, and hospital CCTV captured everything." The legal implications crashed over the administrative staff like a tsunami. But Maya had saved the best for last. "Patricia," she said conversationally, "you mentioned earlier that some people need to learn their place. Would you like to know what my place is?" She reached into her purse one more time and produced a folder of documents. 3 months ago, I won a $2.3 million settlement against Northwestern Memorial for healthcare discrimination. Last month, I was retained by the Department of Justice to consult on their investigation into systemic bias in Chicago area hospitals. Patricia gripped the registration desk for support. "And tomorrow morning," Maya continued with devastating calm, "I was scheduled to present my preliminary findings to the Illinois Attorney General's office. Findings that will now include a comprehensive case study of St. Margaret's Hospital Emergency Department." The silence stretched on forever. James looked at his wife with obvious pride, then turned back to the staff. "Dr. Kim," he said to the young resident, "thank you for trying to intervene. That took courage." Dr. Kim nodded mutely. "Marcus," James addressed the security guard, "thank you for your restraint and basic human decency." Marcus straightened with visible relief. Then James's gaze fell on Patricia, Susan, and Dylan. "As for the rest of you," he said quietly, "we'll be speaking with hospital administration in the morning." Jennifer's live stream had reached 18,000 viewers. The story was spreading across social media platforms faster than the hospital's crisis management team could track. # St. Margaret's Shame and # Dr. Johnson Wife was trending nationally. But Maya still wasn't finished. She looked directly at Patricia, the woman who had humiliated her, scattered her belongings, called her names, and tried to have her arrested. "Patricia," Maya said with devastating calm, "you were right about one thing. Some people do need to learn their place." She paused, letting the words sink in. "Your place is about to change dramatically." The elevator dinged again. This time, it was hospital CEO Dr. Margaret Steinberg, who had been frantically called at home as the social media situation exploded beyond anyone's ability to control. Dr. Steinberg stepped into a waiting room where the balance of power had completely shifted. Her eyes went immediately to James, the star physician she couldn't afford to lose, then to Maya with her business card and legal documents, then to the phones still recording everything. "Dr. Johnson," she said carefully. "Mrs. Johnson, how can we make this right?" Maya and James exchanged a look, husband and wife, attorney and physician, two people who had just endured something that would change everything. "That," Maya said quietly, "is exactly what we're going to discuss." Dr. Margaret Steinberg stood in the center of the chaos like a seasoned general surveying a battlefield she was already losing. The hospital CEO was a sharp woman in her late 50s who had navigated countless crises, but never one unfolding in real time across social media with 18,000 people watching. Her phone buzzed continuously with notifications. The hospital's communications director was texting frantically. "Twitter mentions up 2,400%. Local news stations calling. Need damage control now. Perhaps we should move this conversation somewhere more private," Dr. Steinberg suggested diplomatically, gesturing toward the administrative offices. "No," Maya said firmly. "This happened in public. The resolution happens in public." Jennifer's live stream viewers erupted in approval. The viewer count hit 19,200 and climbing. Dr. Steinberg nodded reluctantly. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through the digital disaster unfolding in real time. The hospital's Google reviews had plummeted from 4.2 stars to 2.8 stars in 30 minutes. Their Facebook page was flooded with angry comments demanding Patricia's termination. A notification popped up. Channel 7 news reporter Monica Carter was in the parking lot. "Mrs. Johnson," Dr. Steinberg began carefully, "I want to apologize on behalf of St. Margaret's Hospital for what you've experienced tonight. This is absolutely not representative of our values or standards of care." Maya remained standing, her posture straight and professional. James flanked her left side, his medical authority lending weight to every word she would speak. "Dr. Steinberg," Maya replied with courtroom precision, "with respect, your apology addresses the symptoms, not the disease. What happened tonight wasn't an aberration. It was systemic failure operating exactly as designed." She opened her legal folder and pulled out a tablet, swiping to a prepared presentation that made it clear this moment had been anticipated, planned for. "St. Margaret's Emergency Department serves 47,000 patients annually," Maya began, her voice carrying the measured authority of someone who had spent years dismantling corporate defenses. "Your department generates $847 million in revenue per year. Hospital-wide, you employ 4,200 people and manage a $2.8 billion annual budget." The precision of her data made Dr. Steinberg's stomach drop. This wasn't an angry patient making emotional threats. This was a legal professional who had done comprehensive research. "In the past 18 months, Maya continued, your hospital has received 34 documented complaints related to discriminatory treatment. Average malpractice settlement for healthcare discrimination in Illinois, $1.2 million per case. Class action potential for systemic discrimination, $45 to $60 million. Patricia, who had been hovering near the nurse's station, made a small noise that might have been a whimper. Dylan Pierce stepped forward desperately. "Mrs. Johnson, surely we can resolve this internally. One incident doesn't constitute a pattern." "One incident?" Maya's eyebrow arched. "Let me show you something." She turned her tablet toward the assembled crowd and began scrolling through screenshots. "Yelp reviews from the past 12 months, she announced. "Nurse was extremely rude to my Hispanic mother. Asian family waited 3 hours while white patients were seen immediately. Staff made assumptions about my insurance based on my appearance." Each review appeared on screen with timestamps and detailed accounts of discriminatory treatment. "Google reviews," Maya continued, "waited 6 hours while white patients with less serious conditions were prioritized. Security followed me around like I was going to steal something. Nurse spoke to me like I was stupid because of my accent." The evidence was damning, comprehensive, and publicly verifiable. James stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of 15 years in emergency medicine. "Dr. Steinberg," he said calmly, "3 weeks ago I received a formal offer for Chief of Medicine at Northwestern Memorial. The compensation package represents a $340,000 annual increase, plus research funding and administrative support." The threat was subtle but unmistakable. St. Margaret's couldn't afford to lose their star physician. "My wife and I have discussed this opportunity extensively," James continued. "Tonight's events have accelerated our timeline. The offer expires Friday at 5 p.m. Maya resumed control of the conversation. "Dr. Steinberg, your Joint Commission accreditation review is scheduled for next month. A discrimination complaint during an active review triggers automatic investigation protocols that can delay accreditation for 18 months. The CEO's face went pale. Joint Commission accreditation was essential for Medicare reimbursement and insurance contracts. "Additionally," Maya continued, "the Department of Justice has been investigating healthcare discrimination in major metropolitan areas. Chicago is under review. One well-documented case could trigger a federal investigation of your entire operation." "What do you want?" Dr. Steinberg asked quietly. Maya's smile was professional and terrifying in its implications. Immediate actions, effective within 24 hours, Maya began, her voice taking on the cadence of someone dictating settlement terms. First, Patricia Walsh is suspended without pay pending an external investigation. Mandatory bias training and formal reprimand before any consideration of reinstatement. Patricia's face crumpled as 20 years of employment hung in the balance. Second, manager Dylan Pierce is demoted from supervisory position, 15% salary reduction, mandatory retraining and 6-month probation. Dylan's mouth opened in protest, then snapped shut. Third, written apology from hospital administration posted on your website, social media, and provided to local news within 12 hours. Fourth, all medical expenses related to my treatment tonight waived. Priority scheduling for follow-up care. Dr. Steinberg nodded rapidly. Of course. I'm not finished, Maya continued smoothly. System-wide changes within 30 days. She advanced to her next slides. Patient advocate with legal training stationed in the emergency department 24/7. Direct reporting to administration, bypassing departmental hierarchies. Anonymous reporting app for discrimination complaints. QR codes in every waiting area, patient room, and common space. 48-hour investigation requirement. Body cameras for all security personnel. Weekly footage review by patient advocacy team. Quarterly review by external auditors. Mandatory cultural competency training for all staff with annual recertification. Advancement decisions will include cultural competency metrics. Jennifer's live stream viewers were witnessing comprehensive corporate accountability. Comments flooded in praising the systematic approach. Long-term accountability measures within 90 days, Maya continued. Community Oversight Board. 7 voting members, including 3 patient representatives, 2 civil rights leaders, 2 external medical professionals. Monthly meetings, quarterly transparency reports. Management bonuses tied to diversity metrics and patient satisfaction scores related to cultural competency. External auditing firm conducting quarterly bias assessments. Results published on hospital website. Annual $100,000 donation to local civil rights organizations focused on healthcare equity. The transformation Maya demanded was breathtaking, a complete reimagining of the hospital's approach to equity and accountability. Dr. Steinberg looked around, at phone recording, at James, whose resignation was ready, at 25,000-plus live stream viewers, at the social media crisis trending nationally. "And if we agree to these terms?" she asked. "No lawsuit filed," Maya replied simply. "No Joint Commission complaints. My husband withdraws his Northwestern application. This becomes a case study in institutional accountability versus defensiveness. The offer was reasonable, comprehensive, and non-negotiable." Dr. Steinberg extended her hand. "Mrs. Johnson, you have a deal." As they shook hands, applause broke out in the waiting room. Jennifer's live stream peaked at 27,000 viewers. But Patricia Walsh had one last moment of spectacular poor judgment. "This is insane," she called out. "One complaint and you're restructuring the entire hospital? She's just playing the race card for money." The room went silent. Maya turned slowly to face Patricia, her expression unchanged. "Patricia," she said quietly, "you just violated your suspension terms by engaging in retaliatory behavior. Dr. Steinberg, that constitutes grounds for immediate termination." Dr. Steinberg didn't hesitate. "Patricia Walsh, you are terminated immediately. Security will escort you out." And with that moment, captured live by 27,000 viewers, the transformation of St. Margaret's Hospital officially began. 6 weeks later, St. Margaret's Hospital. The transformation began immediately. By 7 a.m. the following morning, Patricia Walsh's termination was official. Her 20-year tenure ended with a security escort to the parking lot, carrying a cardboard box containing personal items and a termination letter citing discriminatory behavior toward patients and retaliatory conduct in violation of hospital policy. Dylan Pierce found himself reassigned to the hospital's billing department, processing insurance claims in a windowless office on the third floor. His 15% salary reduction meant fewer dinners out, a delayed vacation, and serious conversations with his wife about their mortgage payments. Dr. Steinberg spent that first day in emergency meetings with the board of directors, legal counsel, and crisis management consultants. The live stream had been viewed 340,000 times within 12 hours. Number sign St. Margaret's shame was trending nationally, with major news outlets requesting interviews. But Maya Johnson had kept her word. No lawsuits were filed. No federal complaints were submitted. The story, while viral, remained focused on accountability rather than destruction. Day 3. The Apology. The hospital's public apology appeared on their website homepage, replacing the usual promotional content about cardiac surgery excellence and patient satisfaction awards. St. Margaret's Hospital acknowledges that Maya Johnson experienced discriminatory treatment in our emergency department. This was not an isolated incident, but part of systemic failures in our policies and culture. We take full responsibility and are implementing comprehensive reforms to ensure all patients receive dignified, equitable care regardless of race, appearance, or perceived socioeconomic status. The apology was shared 50,000 times across social media platforms. Comments were mixed. Some praised the hospital's accountability, others called it too little, too late. But the conversation had shifted from outrage to oversight. Week 1. Immediate changes. Maya's first requirement was implemented within 72 hours. Sarah Carter, a Georgetown law graduate with 5 years of civil rights experience, was hired as the hospital's first patient advocate. Her desk sat prominently in the emergency waiting room with a sign reading, "Discrimination Concerns, Speak with Sarah." On her first day, 3 patients approached with complaints. 2 involved language barriers where interpreters weren't provided. 1 concerned a janitor who had made inappropriate comments about a patient's immigration status. All 3 issues were resolved within 24 hours. The anonymous reporting app, developed by a local tech firm specializing in healthcare solutions, went live after 2 weeks. QR codes appeared throughout the hospital, linking to a simple form. Describe your concern. All reports are confidential and investigated within 48 hours. In the first month, 127 reports were submitted. Most involved minor issues, staff being dismissive, long wait times, communication problems. But 12 reports described clear discriminatory behavior that resulted in additional staff retraining. Week 2. Security overhaul. Body cameras for security personnel were implemented hospital-wide. Marcus Williams, the security guard who had tried to maintain dignity during Maya's ordeal, was promoted to security supervisor and tasked with training his colleagues on de-escalation techniques. The first week of camera footage revealed eye-opening patterns. Security approached Black and Hispanic patients 40% more frequently than white patients. Response times to disturbances varied significantly based on the patient's apparent race and class. Marcus used the data to retrain his entire team. "We're here to help patients feel safe," he told them during mandatory training sessions, "not to make them feel surveilled." Month 1. Cultural Competency Revolution. The mandatory cultural competency training was unlike anything the hospital had implemented before. Instead of generic diversity videos, staff participated in scenario-based workshops led by community activists and former patients who had experienced discrimination. Nurses role-played difficult situations. Doctors examined their own unconscious biases through interactive exercises. Administrative staff learned to recognize microaggressions and interrupt them professionally. Dr. Rachel Kim, the resident who had tried to help Maya, became a champion of the training program. "Medical school taught me to treat diseases," she said in an interview with the hospital newsletter. This training taught me to treat human beings. Month 2. Community Oversight. The Community Oversight Board held its first meeting in the hospital's main conference room. 7 members, as Maya had specified, 3 patient representatives from different community organizations, 2 civil rights leaders from the NAACP and the Puerto Rican Cultural Center, and 2 external medical professionals. Their first quarterly report was devastating and hopeful in equal measure. They documented 15 discrimination complaints that had been properly resolved through the new system, highlighted improvements in patient satisfaction scores among communities of color, and identified 3 departments that still needed intensive intervention. The board's recommendations carried real weight. When they suggested that the hospital's Spanish-language signage was inadequate, new bilingual signs appeared within 2 weeks. When they noted that security disproportionately questioned patients of color about their right to be there, additional training was immediately implemented. Month 3. The numbers. 3 months after Maya's night in the emergency room, the data told a remarkable story. Patient satisfaction scores for cultural competency had increased from 2.8 to 4.1 out of 5 among Black patients, from 3.1 to 4.3 among Hispanic patients, and from 3.4 to 4.5 among Asian patients. White patient scores remained steady at 4.2, proving that equity improvements didn't require diminished care for anyone. Discrimination complaints, rather than disappearing, had actually increased from an average of 2.8 per month to 7.3 per month. But resolution times had decreased from an average of 23 days to 3.2 days, and patient satisfaction with complaint resolution had increased from 31% to 89%. The hospital's Google reviews had rebounded from the post-incident low of 2.8 stars to 4.1 stars. New reviews consistently mentioned the hospital's commitment to change and real accountability. Month 4. Recognition. The Journal of Healthcare Administration published a case study titled From Crisis to Culture Change: How St. Margaret's Hospital Transformed Discrimination Response. Maya co-authored this article with Dr. Steinberg, turning their confrontation into a roadmap for institutional reform. The Illinois Hospital Association invited St. Margaret's to present their transformation model at the annual state conference. 12 other hospitals requested consultation on implementing similar programs. Maya's law firm, Johnson & Associates, was retained by 3 additional hospitals seeking to proactively address bias before crises occurred. Her fee structure was unique. She charged based on measurable outcomes rather than hourly rates, aligning her financial incentives with actual patient care improvements. Month 6. Personal Victories. Dr. James Johnson withdrew his application to Northwestern Memorial and signed a 5-year contract extension with St. Margaret's. His new compensation package included funding for bias research and a commitment to make St. Margaret's a national model for healthcare equity. Marcus Williams was featured in Security magazine as Security Professional of the Year for his innovative approaches to patient-centered safety. His de-escalation training program was adopted by hospitals across the Midwest. Jennifer Martinez, whose live stream had captured everything, was hired as the hospital's community liaison. Her role involved engaging with neighborhood organizations and ensuring that community voices were heard in hospital policy decisions. The Sarah Carter Effect. Sarah Carter, the patient advocate, had become something of a legend in the hospital. Her monthly reports documented not just problems, but solutions. She had mediated 89 patient concerns, prevented 12 potential lawsuits, and created a feedback loop that allowed the hospital to identify and address bias before it escalated. More importantly, her presence had changed the entire culture of the emergency department. Staff knew that discriminatory behavior would be reported, investigated, and addressed. Patients knew they had someone to turn to when they felt mistreated. The ripple effects extended beyond St. Margaret's. Sarah's model was being replicated at hospitals across Chicago, creating a network of patient advocates who shared best practices and supported each other's work. Intellectual victory. Maya's approach had proven something remarkable, that intellectual strategy could achieve more comprehensive change than lawsuits, protests, or public shaming alone. By focusing on systems rather than individuals, by demanding accountability rather than punishment, she had created sustainable transformation. Patricia Walsh's termination had been necessary, but it wasn't the goal. The goal was ensuring that no future patient would experience what Maya had endured. The data suggested that goal was being achieved. The hospital's annual $100,000 donation to civil rights organizations had funded legal aid services, healthcare advocacy training, and community education programs. The money was making a difference beyond St. Margaret's walls. As Maya reflected 6 months later, reviewing the quarterly oversight board report in her law office, she realized that the night she had been humiliated in the emergency room had become the catalyst for the most meaningful work of her legal career. The cut on her forehead had healed without a scar. The changes at St. Margaret's Hospital were designed to be permanent. 1 year later, Maya Johnson stood in the same emergency room where she had been humiliated 12 months earlier. This time, she wasn't bleeding. She was delivering the keynote address at St. Margaret's first annual Healthcare Equity Summit. The waiting room had been transformed into a conference space filled with hospital administrators, patient advocates, and community leaders from across the Midwest. Sarah Carter sat in the front row, taking notes. Marcus Williams wore his new uniform as Director of Patient Safety. Dr. James Johnson introduced his wife with obvious pride. 12 months ago, I learned that my worth as a human being wasn't determined by others' prejudice, Maya began, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. It was determined by my response to that prejudice. The audience was silent, attentive. That night, I had a choice. I could have sued for millions and moved on. I could have destroyed careers and felt satisfied. Instead, we chose something harder. We chose to build. She gestured toward the transformed space around them. St. Margaret's Hospital now serves as a national model for healthcare equity. Our patient advocacy program has been replicated in 47 hospitals across 6 states. Our bias interruption protocols are taught in medical schools. Our community oversight model is being studied by the Department of Health and Human Services. The numbers were staggering. Patient satisfaction among communities of color had increased 68%. Discrimination complaints had decreased 43%, while resolution satisfaction reached 94%. The hospital had been awarded the Illinois Healthcare Equity Excellence Award. But the real victory, Maya continued, isn't in the awards or recognition. It's the grandmother who receives respectful care regardless of her accent. It's in the teenager who isn't followed by security because of his skin color. It's in the mother who knows her concerns will be heard. She paused, looking directly into the cameras recording for the hospital's website and social media channels. Change doesn't happen because we demand it. Change happens because we design it, implement it, and sustain it. Maya's final words echoed through the room. That night taught me that dignity should never depend on who you know or what you wear. Together, we've made sure my story becomes everyone's victory. Your turn. Have you witnessed discrimination in healthcare? Share your story in the comments below. Your voice matters. Your experience can change someone's life. Healthcare equity isn't just a policy issue, it's a human issue. When we speak up, systems listen. When we demand better, institutions can become better. Subscribe to Black Voices Uncut for more stories of quiet strength defeating loud prejudice. Ring the notification bell so you never miss how ordinary people create extraordinary change. Share this video if you believe that dignity should be universal, that respect should be standard, and that accountability should be automatic. Together, we make sure Maya's story inspires action, not just admiration. The ripple effect continues. Maya's story reached 4.7 million views across all platforms. It sparked policy changes at 127 hospitals nationwide. Harvard Business School created a case study on crisis management and social justice transformation. The story became required reading in healthcare administration programs. But the real measure of success wasn't viral fame. It was the thousands of patients who received better care because one woman refused to accept that discrimination was inevitable. Patricia Walsh eventually found work at a small clinic outside the city, where she completed extensive bias training and slowly rebuilt her understanding of patient care. Her story became a cautionary tale, but also one of potential redemption. Dr. Margaret Steinberg was promoted to regional hospital director, tasked with implementing the St. Margaret's model across multiple facilities. She credited Maya with teaching her that accountability could be a competitive advantage rather than a liability. Maya Johnson continues practicing civil rights law, specializing in healthcare discrimination. Her firm's motto reflects the lesson of that transformative night. Dignity through design, justice through systems. The cut on her forehead healed completely. The changes it catalyzed continue to grow.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.